You're sitting in a conversation with people you've known for years, and you feel it, that familiar isolation. Not because you're socially awkward, not because you're unlikable, but because you see patterns they don't see. You ask questions they haven't considered. You connect dots that remain invisible to them. And here's what nobody tells you. That gap, it's not closing. Ever. Think about the last time you felt genuinely excited about an idea, a philosophical concept, a systemic problem, a historical parallel, and you tried sharing it with someone. Their eyes glazed over, they nodded politely, they changed the subject to something comfortable, something safe, something shallow. You told yourself they were tired or distracted or just not interested in that particular topic. But the pattern repeats. Different people, different topics, same result. What if I told you that your intelligence isn't a gift? It's a curse disguised as one. What if the very thing that allows you to understand the world more deeply is the exact mechanism destroying your ability to enjoy it? Schopenhauer understood this brutal truth 2 centuries before modern psychology confirmed it. The more intelligent you are, the more isolated you become. The sharper your mind, the duller the world appears. The deeper you think, the harder it is to find satisfaction in the trivial pursuits that keep most people content. This isn't about being smarter than everyone else. This is about understanding why intelligence creates a specific form of suffering and why ignoring this reality only makes it worse. Let me show you exactly what Schopenhauer discovered about your predicament. You're not imagining it. The world you experience is fundamentally different from the world most people inhabit. Schopenhauer wrote, "The more intelligence one has, the more people one finds original. Commonplace people see no difference between men." Read that again. Intelligence doesn't just change what you understand, it changes what you perceive. You see distinctions others cannot see. You notice contradictions they ignore. You experience complexity where they experience simplicity. Here's the mechanism. Your brain is constantly making connections, finding patterns, analyzing systems. When someone speaks, you're not just hearing their words, you're evaluating their logic, questioning their assumptions, considering alternative interpretations, remembering contradictory information. Most people, they're taking words at face value. They're accepting surface explanations. They're content with simplified narratives. And here's what destroys your happiness. You can't turn this off. You can't just relax and not overthink things, any more than a colorblind person can simply choose to see red. Your brain is wired to analyze, to question, to probe beneath the surface. It's not a choice, it's how you process reality. Think about casual conversations. Someone makes a political statement. They're satisfied with it. They feel they've explained their position. But your mind immediately identifies the logical fallacy, recalls the counterexample, sees the missing variable they haven't considered. Do you speak up? If you do, you become argumentative, difficult, overthinking it. Do you stay silent? Then you sit there watching people build entire worldviews on faulty foundations, and you're isolated behind a wall of your own awareness. This is what Schopenhauer called the curse of genius, not because you're necessarily a genius, but because even moderate intelligence creates unbridgeable gaps between you and the median person. Modern psychology confirmed this with brutal precision. The Dunning-Kruger effect shows that the least competent people have the most confidence in their abilities. Why? Because they lack the intelligence to recognize their own limitations. But here's the inverse nobody talks about. The more competent you are, the more you recognize what you don't know. Intelligence breeds uncertainty. You see complexity where others see simplicity. You ask questions where others provide answers. And society hates this. You're surrounded by people who are certain about things they barely understand. They speak with conviction about topics they've spent 5 minutes thinking about. They offer solutions to problems they haven't analyzed. And because they're so certain, so confident, so satisfied with their shallow understanding, they are happier than you. They sleep soundly because they don't see the contradictions keeping you awake. They enjoy simple pleasures because they don't see the systems of exploitation underlying them. They maintain relationships easily because they don't notice the dishonesty you can't ignore. Your intelligence isn't making you better at happiness. It's making you incompatible with the mechanisms that create happiness for most people: simplification, certainty, and blissful ignorance. You're surrounded by people, yet completely alone. Here's the paradox destroying you. You crave connection, but genuine connection requires shared understanding. And shared understanding requires roughly equivalent levels of comprehension. Schopenhauer observed, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free." You probably interpreted loneliness as a personal failing, something wrong with you, something you need to fix through more social events, more dating apps, more putting yourself out there. But that's not the problem. The problem is that conversation requires mutual territory. When you're talking with someone significantly less intelligent, there's minimal overlap between your conceptual worlds. You're speaking different languages disguised as the same language. Think about explaining a complex idea to someone. Maybe it's a philosophical concept, maybe a scientific principle, maybe just a nuanced observation about human behavior. You watch their face, they're nodding, they might even respond. But you can tell, and this is the isolation, they didn't get it. They got a simplified version. They got the surface. They grabbed whatever part resembled something they already knew and assumed that was the whole thing. And you have two options. One, spend enormous energy breaking it down further, using analogies, approaching it from different angles, essentially become a teacher in what you hoped would be a conversation between equals. Two, accept the superficial engagement and move on, knowing you weren't actually understood. Both options leave you lonely. Schopenhauer wrote, "Intellect is invisible to the man who has none." This isn't elitism, it's optical physics of the mind. You cannot see what you lack the equipment to detect. A person operating at a fundamentally lower level of comprehension literally cannot perceive the depth you're operating at. They think they understand, they genuinely believe they're following along, but you're experiencing something like showing a complex painting to someone who only sees in black and white. They see something, but not what you're seeing. Modern psychology calls this the theory of mind limitation. People tend to assume others think roughly the way they think. Someone of average intelligence assumes you're also average, just maybe with different interests. They cannot model your experience because they've never had it. This creates what I call the conversation trap. You enter discussions hoping for genuine exchange, but you're constantly choosing between dumbing yourself down to maintain connection, speaking authentically and watching people disengage, or staying silent and suffocating under unexpressed thoughts. And here's what's destroying your happiness. All three options feel like betrayal. Dumbing down feels like self-abandonment. Being authentic feels like social suicide. Staying silent feels like slow death. The intelligent person's loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about being understood rarely, partially, or never. You can be in a room full of people, engaged in conversation, even liked and appreciated, and still be completely, utterly alone. Because nobody is where you are. Nobody sees what you see. Nobody wrestles with the questions consuming you. Schopenhauer called this solitude in company, the worst kind of isolation, because it masquerades as connection while delivering none of connection's actual benefits.
And you can't fix this by being more social. You can't network your way out of it. You can't positive think your way into feeling understood by people who lack the capacity to understand you. The gap is real, the loneliness is structural, and pretending otherwise is making it worse.
Here's what they don't tell you about happiness. It requires a certain amount of delusion. You need to believe your achievements matter. You need to see your relationships as special. You need to convince yourself that your life has inherent meaning and purpose. Most people can maintain these beliefs. You see right through them. Schopenhauer wrote, "The wise have always said the same things, and fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite." He understood that happiness, for most people, depends on not thinking too deeply about anything. The moment you truly examine life, its absurdities, its repetitions, its ultimate futility, the comforting illusions collapse. Your intelligence won't let you maintain the necessary blindness. Think about the last time you felt genuinely happy. Maybe you got a promotion, started a relationship, bought something you wanted, achieved a goal you'd set. How long did it last? A few days? A week? And then what happened? You adapted. The promotion became your new baseline. The relationship revealed its flaws. The purchase lost its novelty. The achievement felt empty. This is hedonic adaptation, the psychological treadmill that returns you to your baseline emotional state regardless of external circumstances. Most people experience this unconsciously and just keep chasing the next thing, maintaining hope that this time the happiness will stick. But you see the treadmill. You recognize the pattern. You understand that you're a want machine, a pendulum swinging between suffering and boredom, just as Schopenhauer described. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You watch people get excited about things you know will disappoint them. You see them make the same mistakes you've already made. You observe them building meaning from materials you know are hollow. And here's the trap. You can't participate in their happiness because you see its illusory foundation, but you also can't create alternative happiness because you see through those illusions too. Schopenhauer observed, "After your death, you will be what you were before your birth." Consciousness is a temporary state. Your achievements will be forgotten. Your relationships will end. The things you're striving for will dissolve into nothing. Most people don't think about this, or they think about it briefly and then distract themselves. They have the blessed ability to focus on immediate concerns, short-term pleasures, temporary meanings. Your intelligence won't grant you that mercy. You're aware of the bigger picture even when you don't want to be. You see the patterns even when they're depressing. You understand the mechanisms even when understanding destroys enjoyment. This is why intelligent people struggle with simple pleasures. You can't just enjoy the moment when your mind is simultaneously analyzing the moment, contextualizing it, predicting its end, comparing it to similar moments, questioning its significance. It's like trying to enjoy a magic trick when you can see exactly how it's done. The wonder requires not knowing. The happiness requires not seeing. But you know, and you see. And that knowledge is destroying your capacity for the blind contentment that makes most people happy. Your intelligence isn't adding to your life, it's subtracting the comfortable illusions that make life bearable.
Why your brain is working against you. Let me explain exactly how your intelligence creates suffering at a neurological level. Your brain has a default mode network, the system active when you're not focused on external tasks. For most people, this network generates pleasant daydreams, simple plans, comfortable thoughts. For you, it generates analysis, criticism, pattern recognition, and existential questioning. You can't take a shower without your mind wandering to systemic problems. You can't watch a movie without noticing plot holes, thematic inconsistencies, lazy writing. You can't have a casual conversation without detecting logical fallacies, unstated assumptions, motivated reasoning. This isn't a choice. This is how your neural pathways have developed. Schopenhauer wrote, The common man is not concerned about the passage of time. The man of talent is driven by it. Your mind doesn't rest, it doesn't settle, it doesn't accept simple explanations and move on. Modern neuroscience shows that higher intelligence correlates with increased activity in brain regions associated with abstract thinking, pattern recognition, and future planning. Sounds like an advantage, right? Except these same regions are also associated with anxiety, depression, and existential dread. Your intelligence is constantly running what-if scenarios. What if this relationship fails? What if this decision has consequences I haven't foreseen? What if the meaning I'm building is just elaborate self-deception? Most people's brains don't do this automatically. They think about problems when problems arise. You think about potential problems constantly because your pattern recognition system is always active, always extrapolating, always seeing 10 steps ahead. And here's the cruel mechanism. The smarter you are, the more accurately you predict negative outcomes. You're not being pessimistic, you're being realistic. You see the statistical likelihood, you remember the historical precedent, you recognize the warning signs others miss. But being right about bad things doesn't make you happy, it makes you anxious and isolated. Think about your relationships. You probably see problems before your partner does. You notice communication patterns deteriorating. You recognize incompatibilities that won't matter now, but will matter in 2 years. Do you bring this up? You become negative, overthinking, sabotaging the relationship. Do you stay quiet? You live with growing dread, watching a disaster unfold in slow motion. Schopenhauer understood this perfectly. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Your intelligence shows you targets nobody else is aiming at, and most of those targets are problems, contradictions, inevitable disappointments, and uncomfortable truths. You're not choosing to be unhappy. Your brain is structurally configured to detect patterns that create suffering. And unlike most people, you can't just think positive your way out of seeing what's actually there.
Let me tell you about the advice you've probably already tried. Just be yourself. Except yourself makes people uncomfortable. Your authentic interests bore them. Your genuine concerns seem paranoid. Your actual thoughts sound pretentious. Find your tribe. Except intelligent people are statistically rare, geographically dispersed, and often just as isolated as you are. Focus on gratitude. Except gratitude doesn't erase the systemic problems you can't stop seeing. Here's what nobody tells you. Mainstream happiness advice is designed for average intelligence. It assumes you can redirect your thoughts easily, that you can focus on positives without simultaneously seeing negatives, that you can find fulfillment in conventional achievements. Schopenhauer wrote, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people." And he's right. Every piece of advice about fitting in or being happy is asking you to amputate parts of your intelligence, to pretend you don't see what you see, to perform contentment you don't feel. Mindfulness, they say, live in the present moment, but your brain is literally incapable of staying in the present without also contextualizing it, analyzing it, comparing it to other moments, predicting where it's leading. Telling an intelligent person to stop overthinking is like telling a tall person to stop being tall. It's not a behavior, it's a structure. Positive thinking, they insist. Focus on what you can control. But you can see the bigger systems you can't control. You understand that individual action is largely meaningless in systemic problems. You recognize that your success is mostly luck and timing, not merit. And once you see these things, positive affirmations feel like lying to yourself. Here's the pattern with all mainstream advice. It requires you to become less intelligent, less aware, less honest about reality. It asks you to adopt comfortable delusions.
It wants you to trade understanding for happiness. And maybe you've tried it. Maybe you've attempted to dumb yourself down, to not think so much, to just enjoy things. How did that feel? Like betraying yourself? Like suffocating? Like a slow death of everything that makes you who you are? Schopenhauer saw through this trap. A man of correct insight among those who are duped and deluded resembles one whose watch is right while all the clocks in the town give the wrong time. You're not broken for rejecting advice that doesn't work for your operating system. You're not defective because the strategies that help average people leave you feeling more empty. The problem isn't you. The problem is that society has no framework for intelligent suffering, because intelligence itself is supposed to be the solution, not the problem. But here's what actually works, and it's not what you want to hear.
So what do you actually do? First, stop fighting what you are. You're intelligent. That comes with costs. Those costs are real, structural, and largely unavoidable. Stop trying to think yourself into being happy like average people are happy. It's not going to happen. Schopenhauer's entire philosophy is built on one foundation: accept reality as it is, not as you wish it were. You are wired to see patterns, analyze systems, question assumptions, detect contradictions. This will isolate you. This will make simple pleasures more difficult. This will create existential suffering that most people don't experience. Accept it, not with resignation, but with clarity, the same way you'd accept being tall or left-handed or having any other unchangeable characteristic. Second, stop seeking validation from people who can't provide it. You will not find intellectual satisfaction in conversations with people significantly less intelligent than you. You will not feel understood in relationships where you're constantly translating yourself into simpler terms. This doesn't mean those relationships are worthless, but stop expecting them to fill the need for genuine intellectual connection. Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." Learn to value solitude, not as loneliness, but as the only space where you don't have to diminish yourself, the only place where your thoughts can exist at full complexity, the only environment where you're not performing a simplified version of yourself. Most of your life will be spent around people who don't understand you. Accept this. Save your real self for the rare moments with the rare people who can actually meet you there. Third, and this is crucial, redirect your intelligence toward compassion, not contempt. Yes, you see through people's delusions. Yes, you recognize their limited thinking. Yes, their certainty about shallow understanding is frustrating. But they're not evil. They're operating with the tools they have. Schopenhauer observed, compassion is the basis of morality. Understanding that most people are limited isn't license to dismiss them. It's an invitation to recognize that their suffering is real, even if it comes from limitations you don't share. You suffer from seeing too much. They suffer from seeing too little. Both are forms of suffering. Fourth, find work that uses your intelligence. Don't waste your cognitive capacity in environments that punish thinking. You'll be miserable in jobs that reward compliance over analysis, conformity over insight. And finally, and this is crucial, abandon the pursuit of conventional happiness entirely. You're not going to achieve sustained contentment through achievements, relationships, possessions, or status. You've seen through those illusions. They're closed to you now. But you can achieve something most people never even attempt: understanding. Clear, honest, unflinching understanding of reality. That understanding won't make you happy, but it will make you free.
Here is the ultimate truth Schopenhauer offers you. Your intelligence is not making you better. It's making you different. Different in ways that create suffering. Different in ways that isolate you. Different in ways that destroy the comfortable illusions most people use to navigate life. And you cannot change this. You cannot become less intelligent. You cannot unsee what you've seen. You cannot unlearn what you've understood. So stop trying. Stop trying to be happy like other people are happy. Stop trying to fit into social structures designed for different operating systems. Stop trying to want what you're supposed to want, feel what you're supposed to feel, value what you're supposed to value. The suffering comes not from intelligence itself, but from fighting intelligence, from believing you should be able to enjoy simple pleasures, from thinking you're defective because you can't maintain the delusions that sustain others, from expecting connections that are statistically improbable. Schopenhauer wrote, "Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom." For you, this swing is visible, conscious, inescapable. But here's the freedom hidden in that awareness. Once you accept the pendulum, you stop being surprised by it. You stop believing the next achievement will be different. You stop hoping the next relationship will fill the void. You stop thinking you can optimize your way into sustained happiness. This acceptance isn't depression. Depression is fighting reality and losing. Acceptance is seeing reality clearly and stopping the fight. You are intelligent. This will isolate you, complicate your happiness, and create suffering most people don't experience. Accept it. Live with it. Find meaning not in pursuing happiness, but in pursuing understanding. That's the path Schopenhauer carved for people like you, the intelligent few who see too much to be comfortable, but understand enough to be free.
If this resonated, if this explained something you felt but couldn't articulate, I want to help you go deeper. I've created a free meditation and consciousness tool specifically designed for people whose minds won't stop. It's not about positive thinking, it's about working with your intelligence, not against it. And here's what I want from you. Write in the comments, "It made sense to me." Not because I need validation, but because you need to see how many other intelligent people are experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. You're not alone in your isolation, and sometimes knowing that is enough. Subscribe if you want more uncomfortable truths from Schopenhauer and other philosophers who refused to sugarcoat reality. This channel exists for the people who can't unsee what they've seen. Your intelligence is destroying your happiness, but it's also the only tool you have for building something beyond happiness, genuine understanding of what you are and why you suffer. That's not nothing. In fact, for people like you, it might be everything.